Hi everyone. So 3 brow mistakes that women still do in 2019. This is my experience and this is my research. I'm very interested in your opinion about this. So number 1, of course for many women a trend is a very important thing in the way how they look. And even if we are following the trends, we can't forget about the nature. There's a science that is studying races. It is called anthropology. Many thousands years ago, on different parts of our planet, there were groups of people who were living by themselves in that little group. They had children. All of them looked a certain way. They had a certain bone structure, color of their skin. So generations were changing inside of that little group. It's hard to find pure race nowadays because it's 2019. The world is mixed so much. These body elements would mix with these body elements and would create a totally new body with unrepeatable, beautiful and very unique features. But when different scientists are talking about one or another race, they describe certain parameters that this or that race has. And so the hairiness, how much hair is growing on different bodies, is another parameter that they also use in describing those different categories. Some races are very hairy, some races are less hairy, some races have almost no hair. And lack of huge hairiness on the body doesn't necessarily show a less healthy person. So some people think that if there's a lot of hair, let's say on their brows, then it looks healthier. That means like the hair is growing more, which is not the case. It's just naturally we all built differently. Yeah, we all have probably loads of different bloods in our veins, but we do still have some characteristics this lifetime and this particular body which has a certain hairiness. Nothing wrong with that, and that's what I noticed what women do. Remember the 90s? Sometimes women with a lot of hairiness on their body, they try to get rid of a lot of hair on the brows, much more than they should probably, to look attractive and balanced and in harmony and look like themselves basically. The late trends are more about bushy brows, right? But that's what I noticed about older generation, 30 plus, 40, 50. Some women who have a lot of hair in their face, they try to get rid of the majority of them and they try to make their brows maybe not super thin, but we are not talking about the shape itself. We're mostly talking about of how many hair they want to get rid of. So in this case, I think if they would kind of stop fighting the nature too much and just let it go and just trim it so that would look neat, that by itself can look so balanced on themselves, and many women would actually even forget about even applying makeup. Sometimes that is what's happening when a woman finds right brows for her face. And the opposite thing, I notice very often, yes, that's a trend thing. Brands create a lot of brow products nowadays to make your brows more bushy, to make your hair thicker looking. And they have different techniques to draw the hair inside of the brows, to make the brows thick, intense, as if there are loads of hair in it. On some faces, that's not needed. On some women whose hairiness is not that intense, just by nature, they do a lot of things to make that bushy effect on them. Some girls even don't pluck them. That's another kind of trendy thing lately, last several years, which is great and it can look very attractive on many faces. From my viewpoint, there's no need to buy loads of products for that. Sometimes lightened brows on the face looks much more in harmony. Of course, if you have some sparse things, if you have some even holes, sometimes that happens, right? So you can fill it in with eyeshadow. From my viewpoint, even a simple matte eyeshadow for ashy blondes would be this one, for darker girls would be this one, ashy brown color, and just any small brush. You just fill it in slightly, a little bit. And by the way, in this case, if the eyeshadow is slightly lighter than the hair, it's even better. It creates that slightly darker background. On that background, we still can see some of her natural hair. It makes the brow slightly more defined. It frames the face by itself, especially if you apply makeup. That's why when a woman is doing her makeup, she's adding everywhere a little bit of more color, just because everything washes off a little bit with foundation. She's basically adding some color back to her face or creating darker effect. So same with the brows. Just using light taupe color. The brows shouldn't be very stiff and precise. You can draw the hair, but it's not necessary. That's what I see on many young girls nowadays, especially when women do microblading. That does create such a severe effect for the brows sometimes. So if we see her pictures before, she barely had any brows. Yeah, she had some hair. That hairiness is not intense. When she's doing that super dark microblading, or maybe not super dark, maybe just darker and thicker, just to create that bushy effect, as if she has a lot of growing on her face that can look separate. Something doesn't match. People sometimes don't even see that. What exactly doesn't match? But I'm not talking about all the cases. Always check. Even if you listen to any rules, always check for yourself, because there are many rules that can be broken. Number 2 is close to this one, but slightly different. We are going more to the bone structure of the faces. For example, there are faces with sharper features, and there are faces with softer features, and very delicate, smallish bones, rounded cheeks, rounded lips. You just have to have in mind women with broader, with more natural features of their faces, with blunt bones, let's say, on the cheeks, on the chin, bigger bones, broader bones. Sometimes when they don't even plug the brows, they still look amazing. They don't even need to plug their brows. Even if they do, glamorous makeup go out in the evening, those unplugged brows, they do look good. I talk a lot about keepy types on my channel, so many of you probably know that, so I think that is connected to that a little bit. Or sharp, smallish bones. For these ladies, I would recommend plugging their brows a little bit more, not to make them super thick. So thickness and thinness of the brows is also important, and in different face shapes and on different facial structures that looks slightly different. Because sometimes when we are going for the trend, and the trend is telling us that thicker brows are now much more trendy, so some women with more delicate bone structure in their face, they are going for that thick brows, which gives them not very neat effect on their face, and they can feel that, but they don't know what exactly that is. So they're trying to balance that with applying more makeup, let's say, or with wanting to do false lashes just to bring some more glamour, to bring some more sophistication to their face. There's a lack of sophistication as they feel, but they don't understand that as soon as they plug their brows a little bit more and make them slightly thinner, I'm not talking about 90s thin brows. I'm talking about slightly thinner than they have now, let's say. Less than 1 centimeter, maybe even half centimeter if the bone structure is tiny and small features of their faces. Just plugging the brows can change the whole look. That can create sophistication. Same with women with prominent features. If they overplug their brows and make it super thin, the pieces of skin and the bones, everything is kind of coming forward, and it's not enough weight between the brows and the face, and face looks heavier and that skin around eyes looks much heavier. So the brows, they give that right support for the weight of the face. This is what they call like a framing the face, right? So they give that right support, and if support is not balanced, it can make a person look undone, unbalanced. Something will be sticking out. I'm not telling you go and plug your brows just to check maybe thinner brows look better on you. I just try to put your attention on this detail too. And number 3 brow mistake in 2019 that I still noticed is too long brows. Yeah, you probably say, how can brows be too long? We're just fighting to make it longer. Especially women who have a lot of hair on their face. They trim the brows, make it beautiful shape, amazing. They have to plug between the brows, because it's also hairiness here. They pluck underneath because there's a lot of hair here. Some do waxing on top because on top they also have, let's say, dark hair. They're growing pretty bushy. They want to give that high definition brow effect. But so many women forget about that tail. Some women even have that tail centimeter longer than it should be. And what it does to the face is dragging everything down, is dragging eyes down, especially if you have hooded eyes or lowered brows. That piece of skin is becoming, I don't know, twice heavier than it would be if you would just remove that 1 centimeter there. How to check that before you do anything? Very classic thing that we know for decades. Side of your nose, inner corner of your eyes, this is where we start, right? And the tail of the brow should be, again, side of the nose, outer corner of the eye, So if you pluck that part a little bit more, a little bit higher, just make that tail a little bit higher, that can change the whole face. That's what I do for my mom, because my mom, she doesn't have a lot of hair, but sometimes it grows down here pretty much. Before we didn't touch that, we thought, okay, like long, beautiful, curvy brows. No, that's not needed. So we started plucking that, and the whole face is just bam. It's lifting effect immediately. It's just your skin becomes very tight. Your eyes become brighter. And very often, again, you feel like you're ready to go. You don't even need any makeup. That is awakening you. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm waiting for your comments. I'm very curious about what you say. Maybe you noticed something too. Maybe you have some of that stuff. Maybe you noticed that on yourself. So let me know. And thanks to everyone who's supporting me in Patreon for asking me questions. I'm answering the questions over there. So thank you so much, guys. That's a huge help. Thank you and bye-bye.